Welcome to Rauta and the third episode of non-metal covers done by Metal Band. Now, two previous episodes in the series kind of covered some of the more known ones, some of the more popular ones, that is, metal bands covering a non-metal song. Some of them were punky, some of them were outright pop, and that's actually, in my opinion, the most fascinating part of the whole deal. When you have a song that is not even supposed to sound like metal, ends up sounding very metal and also very nicely made. Now, in two previous episodes, I had 5 songs each, and 4 of those songs in both episodes had like my preference on the cover side of things, rather the original version. Now, obviously, these are always matters of taste, and feel free to disagree with me, that's totally fine. This time, however, I'm gonna spoil it right here. I think all these cover versions are, in my opinion, better than the original ones. Some are rather obvious, some are not. But let's get it on and let's go within alphabetical order as the previous time. So here we have Beast in Black, a Finnish kind of a cheesy, you could call it pop metal band really, because it's so mainstream, it's so flirting with the 80s aesthetics and style and all that stuff, but it's also very well made and all that stuff. Now, they had a cover of Michael Jackson, not really a surprising one, also a Manowar cover, but we're not talking about that. And obviously I had no fucking idea how was the original song like until I kind of re-listened to it. And then I was like, yeah, now I remember the song. They Don't Care About Us. Some might outright like, hey, I know the song, I remember how it goes and all that stuff. Now, whether you like Michael Jackson's music, you obviously know he was a kind of a musical genius, made a lot of super hit songs and all that stuff. So touching any of his songs is always like a kind of risky, even if you know how to do it right in terms of metal. But still. Now, obviously I was, in that era, that age of time when Michael Jackson was big, 80s, 90s, what have you. And of course I got to listen to Michael Jackson all around the years. Not like I was listening to it, but radio and all. So I know what Michael Jackson is, at least in terms of hit songs, and I know how that's translated when you do a metal cover of it. Now, actually pretty nice, considering especially this. I'm really, really nicely. They make it sound like it really could be one of their own songs, because they are kind of a pop metal to begin with. They even have the vocal performance really, really nice. And I'm like, how is this even possible? I mean, you're not really American black guys doing the stuff, and of course Michael Jackson is a super talented, or was super talented, vocalist as well. But this version actually nicely translated. So even if you're not a Beast in Black fan or Michael, this one kind of deserves your attention. It kind of reminds me how well Therion did the ABBA cover, because they also took a pop song and made it their own operatic metal music version, and they made it wonderful ways. This is kind of a similar and obviously different, so definitely give it a go and be surprised how well it works. Children of Bottom is one of those bands that now rests in peace because, well, the main man Aleksi Laiho unfortunately died a couple of years ago. But they made a big impact, not only in Finnish scene, but also international waters. And they definitely took their own style pretty high. I mean, can't really get much higher than that. With the style, with the success, with the skill and all. Now, they also did some interesting cover. But once again, we're not talking the metal cover here, the Slayer one. We're talking about this Ramones cover. Somebody put something in my drink. Now, Ramones is very punky, obviously. And their version to be translated to metal makes very much sense, like a lot of those other known bands making metal covers of, punk songs. Slayer did it well, Mayhem did it well, Metallica did it well, and you could go on with the list. So in that sense, you could say not that surprising that actually Children of Bottom made this song quite nice. I think in that, but it's kind of goofy. However, it fits really well at Children of Bottom because they were known as, you know, enjoying alcohol, and unfortunately that really took Alexi Laiho to his early grave. There's certain kind of a irony, or I don't know, poetic injustice, if you will. But be it as may, this song is nicely made version. There is very much like Children of Bottom kind of a stuff. You know, they're getting their melodic death kind of a thing, yet still maintaining true to the original punk thing here. So it's not that different, but obviously it's very much more metalized version. So unlike metal band covering a metal song, not that interesting because they either sound too much the same or whatever, but this much is like, yeah, this is actually a reason why so many metal bands are inspired by punk bands and why those punk songs translate into metal songs so nicely. So this is definitely worth checking out. And now, if you remember what I mentioned in the beginning of the episode, is that, yeah, this time all the cover versions are better, in my opinion, than the original one, but this is a tough competition. The only reason why I like this is that it's just heavier, it's, you know, more brutal in that way. But since I'm a fan of neither of the band here either, so it's kind of a tough competition, but metalized version wins once again. Then we have DevilDriver, which decided to do 16 horsepower cover already years and years ago. Now, 16 horsepower is a band that totally escaped me back in the days. I had no idea what kind of song to really expect when I was going for this one. And it's country rock song, not that old even, but still quite old by this time. And the original version is like, yeah, I figure out why I never have heard it. I never cared much for country music or country rock. But I guess that song is quite okay in their own genre. However, DevilDriver took it to the whole different level and gave it quite a bit of a treatment. Now, I've never been exactly a DevilDriver fan, never been a band that was like out of, in my box, yard or whatever. Not my cup of tea. But the version they made out of this song is very interesting because it's actually very brutal compared to the original one, which is very lightweight, and I can hardly figure out how these two versions could have the same audience. One is very kind of laid back, relaxed country rock song, and the other one is, in terms of metal even, quite heavy, quite brutal and all. I mean, we're not talking about brutal death metal here, obviously, but still, it's quite of a bold take, and I gotta say, hats off, because I've been able to make it interesting and very different while still having the cover soul in the very core. And then we have the song which I dislike the most. Basically the only one in terms of cover song which I really dislike. It's a Sin. You probably already get the tune spinning in your head when you hear the song name. It's a Sin. I was allergic to that Pet Shop Boys song back in the days. And I still, when I was listening to this for this video, I was like, man, it didn't really get better. I know a lot of people like it. There's certain kind of a dark feeling, even if it's a cheesy pop song from UK. But man, for me it was like the opposite of where Depeche Mode was going. I like Depeche Mode, but I could never like Pet Shop Boys. And to this day, I'm still allergic to this song. Well, almost anyway. But when Gamay, a power metal band, decided to make their version, I was a really bit like, can it really work? Because I'm not powerful metal man. I'm not a fan of this song even more. But people are like, yeah, give it a go. I mean, it's a good version. I was like, can it really work? But it does. I mean, it's more like, actually a more like heavy metal version. But then again, you could really go for a debate whether Gamay is actually more heavy metal than power metal. Let's just leave that debate out of this whole video. But the point here is, they really did nice work translating this song to a metal version. And made me like, I actually like this version. It's nice there how the tempo changes. It's not even there. I mean, it's very true to the original song, but also sounding like very well-made track. And I'm like, this actually makes a lot of sense. Personally, I could never do a cover version of a song I didn't like. So for me, this is like way too bold for me to take this kind of a journey. But hats off once again, how you translate a song that kind of annoys me to a version which is actually pretty good. So pretty interesting to turn a UK pop song into a power metal or heavy metal song and make it actually sound like that's good. So interesting choice. We have a winner here. But obviously my favorite comes to last. It's not obvious because this was in alphabetical order. But this is actually stuff that made a big impact for me in 1993 when Sepultura KS80 came out. This was my first Sepultura album back in the days. And only after this one I went for Arise and Beneath the Remains and all. But I remember this track actually being one of my favorite tracks on this album. And of course it was obvious back in the days when I had this on CD that it was a cover song. And I was like, man, what is this song? This is so good. It's kind of very Sepulturized, but it's not their song. So it was kind of weird. And I was like, what is this band, New Mortal Army? It took me probably years to figure out it was actually kind of a known punk rock band, post-punk, whatever post-punk band it was. But anyway, I never touched the band more than that. I just like, okay, it's an interesting cover and all, and I like the cover and never bothered to check out New Mortal Army beyond that. Now, when I was doing this video, once again, listening both versions, the covers and the original ones. Not in that order, though. I gotta say, this New Mortal Army song, it's good. It's kind of a dark, even if it's not very heavy, but there's this nice underlying tone why, like, I understand why these guys decided to do this kind of a cover, because it's very easy to translate into a metal song. It's already dark, and when you add certain level of heaviness, it becomes very, very good. And of course, Sepultura guys have always been fascinated and inspired by hardcore punk, probably punk and post-punk and what have you. So these songs just makes so much sense nowadays. I mean, it's even obvious to a degree, because these guys were praising early on a lot of those bands which were not metal at all, but they were being inspired by them. So yeah, Hunt is a wonderful cover track. It's actually even one of my all-time non-metal songs made into metal ones, because it made an impact more than 30 years and it still makes an impact. It's so wonderfully made, and kind of a reminder that I actually need to go back to this album in total as whole to just, like it. But all of these, like I said, in my opinion, all of these songs are really good in cover versions. Some are obviously better than the others, and would I really go for all of these? Not likely, but at least they surprised me positively, and that's why they are in this episode. Now, this episode, whole series of these cover songs is just made for fun. Just go beyond your normal comfort zone, especially during summertime when you're going for drinks. Play something different when you're friends, when you're doing barbecue, hanging out, drinking beer, whatever. So don't take it too seriously. If you feel like these are not the songs you want to invest your time in, or you feel like this is utter bullshit, don't do it. But if you want to give yourself a chance to go beyond your comfort zone and maybe learn something cool along the way, going for some new songs and new bands even, well, this is your time. Obviously, now you know what to do. I don't include links here because you probably have your favorite search engine or favorite streaming service you want to check these out. I personally did check out all these songs on Spotify because they were all there, both versions of each song, so you can do it that. But if you have other preference for your favorite streaming service, go ahead and just type them in the search field, and you can probably find two versions of the same song by one and just listen to them back to back like I did. So go and enjoy, and looking forward your suggestions. Which metal band did a good non-metal version? It might be already on my list, but in case it's not, please keep them coming and I will go through your suggestions, and if they're good, I will include them in the future episodes. Now off you go. Enjoy the summer, enjoy barbecue, enjoy drinking, enjoy your friends and all of that. Bye bye.